Claire Youngworth Walter, and we're interviewing her for the 150th anniversary of the Catholic Church in Marshalltown. And Claire had the honor of graduating from St. Mary's High School. So, Claire, can you tell us about going to the St. Mary's grade school? You said you had to walk from home?
I had to walk from May Street, which was on the south side, and it was a little over a mile, and we had to walk to school and home from school.
Over the railroad tracks.
Over the railroad tracks, yes, and then sometimes a train would be there and we'd have to wait. And one time, Yvonne Welch, a friend of mine that went to St. Mary's, we crawled underneath the train.
Uh-oh.
And the man that stayed in the little house up above that gave directions to the train, he came down and really bawled us out. Oh. And I think we both ended up crying.
And who do you remember as your first teacher?
That would have been my first grade teacher. Oh, and I liked her too, but you know, I'm 95. I can't go back. I wish I could, and I have no way of finding it because I
written down
don't have a record of it. But,
okay.
Oh, they were wonderful teachers.
And they were all of the sisters, right?
Yeah, oh, yes. Humility. Sisters of Humility.
And did they have the house next door to the school then?
Yes, they did.
It was built?
Yes, they did. And if we would go to Mass or have to sing in the choir or something and go to communion, then we could go over to the convent and they'd give us a little breakfast.
Oh,
And we thought that was great.
And how many days a week did you have Mass for school?
Oh, it was sporadic, I think. Depending on what the sisters have to do, the nuns, or what they were required to do.
Or holy days?
Yes. Oh, yes. Holy days, of course. You know, we went. But sometimes we'd have to sing it for a funeral, you know, and things like that, too.
The school kids did?
Yes.
And was first grade First Communion? Or was that second grade?
I think.
Second grade. Okay. Do you remember who gave you First Communion? Which priest was there?
Well, yes, it was Monsignor. She's on my...
Yeah, it's right there if you want to hold it. No, behind you a little bit.
Oh, sure. This is my certificate. My First Communion certificate. It's lovely. It says Claire Youngworth, 1931.
Let's see if we can get closer. And everybody got one of these.
Everybody got one.
Let's see. And that says Reverend William Lean.
Yes.
1931.
He was a magnificent Monsignor. Well-liked, well-known in the city, and just a wonderful man.
Now, did you have a test or a quiz before First Communion? Or?
Oh, they took our religion class, and all of us would do it together. And the only thing different was it was studying what we were doing and what First Communion was and what communion the host and everything. It was guided for communion instead of just an open religion class. But it was our religion class.
Okay, and then you graduated from high school at St. Mary's too, right?
Yes, I did.
Do you remember how many were in your class?
Let's see, I don't know why 16 rings a bell.
Yeah.
Be close.
Be close. And can you show us your diploma? Here's.
Yes. I graduated in 1941, St. Mary's School, and it tells you right there.
Let's see. Yep. Class of 1941.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you open it, you told me who was the principal.
Oh, we're going to find her. Sister Mary Nicholas, and she was the principal.
And then that tells...
Right Reverend Monsignor William Lean.
Right.
Wonderful people.
And where was graduation at? Was it in the school or was it in the church?
Yes, we had mass in the church, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But where they handed out the diplomas, I think, was in our gym. Wouldn't it be?
Yeah, could have been.
I think, yeah.
So.
Remember, I'm 95.
And
isn't this nice?
it is, yeah. They did pretty fancy work then.
Yes, they did.
Now, did you get married at St. Mary's?
No. We were married in New Mexico because Les was in the service.
Oh.
He was a pilot and taking pilot's training.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then I worked for the Air Force in one of the offices.
Where did you meet Les?
He's from Marshalltown.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And to get married, did you have classes for pre-marriage or?
No, because it was wartime.
Uh-huh.
But he took classes because he joined the church after the war.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he had someone giving him religion classes. Or,
Yes, he'd go, I think it was twice a week or something like that. Yeah,
Oh,
we
uh-huh.
never met.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And you were married in 1943, right?
Mm-hmm.
It says at age 19. So that was pretty young.
Young, isn't it? But remember, my mother sent me to school.
Because you were so smart.
Yeah.
All right.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, when you went to school at St. Mary's and all, did you have a dress code or wear uniforms?
No.
Or?
That my children all did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I remember that.
And they had those little plaid outfits.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And did they have lots of homework? Did you take homework home with you?
Yes, we always had homework, and my dad would buy a sack of apples for $0.25 at the grocery store around the corner, and occasionally he would do that because we were all sitting around the dining room table doing our homework. 'Cause when he would say, it's homework time, then we'd all sit there. And when I was younger and didn't have homework, in the first and second grades maybe, I know I'd put two books together like a typewriter kind of, because I'd jag them, and then I'd sit there and type them.
Yeah. Now, you said that your
So I'd get an apple.
Oh, that's how you earned it.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If you do your homework, you get an apple.
Now, you said your family was Yugoslavian?
Yes. And Czechoslovakian was my father.
Was he born there, or were they
yes.
born in America?
No, they were born there and they came across.
Uh-huh.
Their names are at in New York.
Oh, yes, yes.
Statue of Liberty. Yeah.
Oh, my. Okay. So they maybe didn't always speak English, huh?
No, we helped teach them. They would ask us.
Oh, uh-huh.
And they would listen when we would talk to each other, too, and then maybe ask a question.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, it was interesting.
It would be.
And they always took the paper, the TR, and read that. They would read anything in between themselves, my mother and dad.
Mm-hmm.
They would check kind of with each other to help each other remember the words.
So then when they went to church with all the Irish and the Germans and all, did they understand what was being said because of the Latin?
Well, no, neither did anybody else.
Yeah.
It was Latin.
Yeah.
You know, if you didn't have the education. But that didn't bother them in the least because they knew what it was from the wording, you know, that it would be the same thing but in their own language.
But then when you got to high school, you probably took Latin as a class, didn't you? Yeah.
It was required in those days.
Yeah. So then when you got married, when did you come back to Marshalltown?
When he went overseas.
Oh.
And he put 21 missions over Japan.
Oh.
And he'd fly home and the Japanese would send that smoke up. And
so when you came back and he was overseas, did you join some of the ladies' clubs or the Red Cross?
Yeah. Altar and Rosary and everything that came along, I was on. School board and church. What did we call the
parish councils?
Yeah. I helped, and I was wedding chairman for about 5, 6, 7 years. Yeah.
So you helped set up for weddings and all, huh? Yeah. Now, Haverhill was still a church out there then, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Do you remember when they closed Haverhill?
Yes, I do.
Did they come into St. Mary's? Or?
They did. They could go to St. Henry's or St. Mary's, as I remember. I think they had that choice. I'm not positive, but I think so. So
St. Henry's was built by then, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you help with some of that fundraising?
Oh, heavens, yes.
Yeah. What sort of fundraising did you have?
Well, I think it was a separate envelope in our package of envelopes. And then there was a lot of spontaneous donation, too, and different...
did you have fairs and bazaars?
That's what I was going to say. I think,
dinners?
Dinners, yes. Anything that came along, like...
And then you did it again when they built Lenahan, huh? Yeah. So, what did your kids think of Lenahan?
Oh, they loved Lenahan. Vicky really loved that, and well, so did Bob.
Yeah.
And junior or senior year, she had to go to Marshalltown High School. And so did Tom, and so did Pat.
Did any of them go to St. Mary's or?
Oh yeah,
St. Mary's. Yeah.
Until Lenahan closed. Then they had to switch.
So they went to 8th grade at St. Mary's and then went to Lenahan, huh? So, what do you remember about some of the priests that served at the parish? Who's like some of the first priests you remember?
Oh, I remember Father Drummy.
Oh?
And because he was good with the boys, the basketball and that stuff. And, there was several that was really good with the kids, you know. Now,
was the parish priest the principal, or the nuns were always the principals?
The nuns were the principal of the school.
The sisters were?
And then, of course, the Monsignor or whatever, there'd be a priest over the nuns.
Do you remember when they changed from Latin over to English masses?
Yes, I do remember that, and that was quite a challenge.
Was it shocking to anybody, or?
Well, I suppose some, probably the older you were, the more it bothered you, but it bothered me a bit.
Yeah, and they went from sort of having their back to the congregation to facing the congregation.
That was a challenge too.
It.
You just had to, you know what my dad always said, you take what's dished out to you, and if you're smart, you make the best of it. And I've lived with that all my life.
Okay. What about when they started letting women do more? Did you like participating more? Or?
Well, I think like altar and rosary and doing the weddings and doing funerals and working and donating and that.
Mm-hmm.
That part didn't bother me. It seems like it just kind of flowed
Together. Yeah.
Oh.
And what do you think about this joining the parishes back together? Do you have an opinion that we're all going to be one big parish again?
Well, that's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Because I'm from the old school. And as of now, at 95, physically I'm housebound.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't go to anything except the beauty shop and doctor's calls. I have Jean Miller that comes.
She comes?
She comes every 2 weeks.
Oh, good
my,
for her.
I look forward to her coming. We have a good time.
So she keeps you up on the happenings?
Oh, yes, and I get the bulletin, too.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
So you've kind of gone from one parish to split parishes back to one parish again, huh? So...
Father Jim Miller used to come see me before Jean Miller. When he left, then Jean Miller took over.
Oh, well, is there anything else that you have a special memory of? Any?
I remember the school fire.
Oh, yes. Was that 1940?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we had been to I think it was a dance at the Coliseum.
Oh.
And on our way home, the fire trucks were at the church.
Oh.
There were several of us girls together that lived on the south side, Von Welch and those, you know.
Uh-huh.
And Juanita Mudd.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, we went over to the school. And I looked up, and my desk was right in front of the window. And I said, oh, that pair of nylons that I bought yesterday, I didn't take them with me, and they're burning up. And I said, oh, and because, you know, they probably cost a quarter, and my folks don't have all those quarters to give me.
Sure,
That's
sure.
what I was thinking anyway.
Uh-huh.
But that's what bothered me about the fire, but then it got to be... It worked out. It was a neat school.
Yeah.
You walked in, and of course we had a big bell.
Uh-huh.
And
that's the bell that's out front now at church. Uh-huh.
And then there was a lobby, and then you would, if you were in grade school, you just went straight in, and the rooms were there in succession. But if you were in high school, you got to go around the corner and go up all those pretty stairs.
Yeah.
And then you were up there if you were in high school. I love that school.
Yeah.
I did.
Well, we want to thank you for sharing your memories and your time with us. And we hope you can come to some of our activities for the 150 years.
Today we are interviewing Betty Collison. So Betty, let's first of all start out with just a little bit about you and your family.
Well,
where were you born?
I was born in Louisiana.
That's what I thought.
And I married a native Marshalltown boy, David Carlson. So after we were married in September of 1947, I moved to Marshalltown and have lived here ever since. So I have 4 children. They were all born here in this hospital, at St. Thomas Mercy Hospital, which is now the Embers Retirement Center. And I have 2 girls and 2 boys. A girl is the oldest. She lives in Colorado. And my son Craig lives in Dallas. And I have a son Mark who lives here in Marshalltown. And I have a daughter Madeline who lives in Denver, Colorado. So I have 2 Coloradans, which makes it nice because I can visit both at the same time. And I have, I think, 15 grandchildren. And they're scattered all over the United States. One's in Toronto, Canada, too. And I have 7 or 8 great-grandchildren. There's 7 great-granddaughters and only 1 great-grandson. So I'm hoping I will have more great-grandsons.
So dare I ask you how old you are?
I will be 96 in May.
May what?
May 31st.
Okay, that's a month and a half away.
So I may be the oldest in the parish. Marlis White possibly is, but she's in Eldora. And I probably am the oldest.
So you and your husband were members of St. Mary from
All the time.
1947
Yeah.
on. And he was
Monsignor Meyer was the pastor at that time, and he didn't live very long. And then Monsignor Scahill came, and they always had 2 priest assistants. Of course, at that time, priests were
2 priest
plentiful.
assistants plus
Yes,
the
yes.
pastor?
Right.
Wow. And your
Father
husband was,
Ziegler
excuse me,
and, let's see, was it Father May? He was a beautiful organist. And then Father Sodawasser came because I know he baptized Lynn, and she was born 11 months after we were married, so I know he was the priest, the young priest then.
so your husband was a dentist,
Yes.
and did you have a career outside the home, or was
Yes.
being a mom your
Before I
career?
was married, I worked as a pediatric dietitian at Charity Hospital in New Orleans. And I lived in the French Quarter, and my folks had a fit because everything in the French Quarter was made of wood, and they thought, well, if a fire ever started, you'd burn up. But anyway, our apartment was on the 3rd floor of this old building, but we had a beautiful courtyard in the center of the building, and we had a view of the Mississippi River, and we could always see the banana boats when they came in, and taking all the fingers of the bananas off the boat, so that was fun. But,
So after you were married, did you continue being a dietitian?
no, I didn't.
So your primary career was being a mom?
I was a dietitian.
Okay, that's good.
I graduated from a girls' college, Catholic Girls' College in San Antonio, and then I did graduate work at St. Louis U. And that's where,
Is that where you met David?
no, I met David the year I graduated from college. He was going overseas, and I was going to graduate school. And my brother-in-law was his senior officer. So he almost had to date me that summer, so that's when I met him. I met him in 45.
So you were married in Louisiana?
And 47. We were married in Houston, Texas.
So your children probably received all their sacraments at St. Mary?
Yes, they did.
So baptism, Holy Communion, confirmation, were the girls...
But only one was married there.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
So, you've been in St. Mary a long time, and I'm not going to count up the years. You can remember several of the priests who
Oh,
were
yes,
here.
yes.
What changes have you seen in St. Mary through the years?
Well, I mean, the priests have just been busier because they've had large congregations, I mean, in recent years anyway. And I can't, let me think a minute, what changes it would be. Of course, at that time, the priests all had housekeepers, And now they have to cook for themselves, and they have a lot more work to do for themselves. So I don't think they have the freedom that they did have. Although, when I first came, they were elderly priests, and they did have young assistants, so that helped. But I can't really say what difference. The priests have always been busy at St. Mary's.
When you first were moved in, or came to Marshalltown,
Mm-hmm.
the priest back was to the parishioners during
That's
Mass.
correct, right.
So you've seen that change come
Oh,
about,
yes.
of the priest start facing them.
And the altar at St. Mary's now was much taller, and there was a space around the back. You could always walk around the back of the altar. And it was beautiful, the old white. And I don't know what's happened to all of those altar.
Were you here when there were
On either side?
pillars in the church at St. Mary?
Mm-hmm.
So were you here then when that refurbishing has taken place and the pillars were taken out?
That's right.
And you were here, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the seating arrangement is entirely different now. And I don't know if, well, I think it's more practical the way it is now than the way it was.
Was there ever a time that you had to rent a pew at St. Mary?
Well, I don't know. We always sat in the same row, same pew. I think they were kind of reserved.
Really?
I've kind of forgotten that. I know in my hometown it was that way, in Louisiana.
You didn't dare sit in somebody else's pew.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. That's right, you sat in your same seat.
So what committees have you belonged to at St. Mary? How have you been active?
Well, I guess I was in Altar and Rosary, and I was president of Altar and Rosary Society. It was called that then. Now it's Council of Catholic Women. I sang in the funeral choir, and I think I probably was a lector for 30-some years. And Parent Teachers Association. I'm just trying to think of all the funeral committee, wedding committee. I can't think of everything.
Did you ever teach CCD?
No, yes, I did. Junior high. It was junior high. We only taught for 1 year, my husband and I. So we were not long-time CCD teachers.
Were you ever on the funeral committee?
Oh, yes, lots of times.
So was there any committee that you were never on?
No, I think I was on just
There was actually
I'm not sure that I was on the liturgical committee.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure liturgical committees came
Well, I mean
in.
planning the liturgy.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
No, I know I wasn't on that.
A wedding committee, you were on wedding committees? What did
Yes.
you do on a wedding committee?
A wedding committee? Well, you talk to the prospective bride, or whoever was going to make the arrangements for the reception, and then you usually prepared a mold for the punch bowl, and you did that the day before, and then you had your committee. Usually it was the ones from the monthly committee of all of the women in the parish were all signed a 1 month, and they would help then set up, and those tables were heavy, having to move them around. Sometimes we had help from them, sometimes we didn't. But most of the time it was just cake and punch, nuts and mint, so it wasn't like a meal. If it was a meal, usually the family provided that and served that.
That's really interesting because I don't remember wedding committees.
The wedding committee?
Yeah.
Well, Jean Miller's been president, I think. I mean, she's been chairman of that committee now for a long time, along with the funeral committee.
Oh, yeah, she's
But
on
most of the weddings now, they have receptions elsewhere.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. Yeah. So what changes do you see for women in the years that you've been at St.
Well, I
Mary's?
think women are taking a much stronger position in the church in every direction. We have had some wonderful nuns who have been in our parish. I'm thinking of Sister Diana now. She was so wonderful in RCIA and all the converts she brought into the parish. But I can think of so many nuns, I can't think of their names right off my tongue, but I can remember some of the musicals because we had a wonderful music teacher, Sister Cecilia, and we put on musicals. I mean, the students put on musicals at St. Mary's School. And I can't, well, anyway, we had some very fine
So did your
sisters.
children go to St. Mary's School?
Yes, they did. Lynn graduated, and then our son transferred to senior high his junior year, and that was just before St. Mary's lost their high school.
So your
It was
children went to
Lenahan. It
Lenahan?
was Lenahan.
So did all of your children go to Lenahan?
No.
Okay.
There was no longer a high school.
Oh, okay.
Lenahan wasn't I think maybe 1970 was the last year that students graduated from Lenahan. I'm not sure, but I think 70 was the last year. And the first year was 66, and our daughter Lynn was in that class of 66. So,
What do you remember about St. Mary dividing into two parishes when St. Henry was built?
well, I'm a little sad, but at the same time, I realize the practical aspect of it, that because of the shortage of priests and our diversified parish, the way it is becoming more and more diversified. It probably is well, I'm sure it's the best way to go. And I just hope that St. Francis of Assisi will be as wonderful as St. Mary's and St. Henry's have been.
It's kind of interesting that we started out as one parish, we divided into two parishes,
Right.
and now we're coming back to
Yeah.
one parish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
It is interesting, yeah. What do you remember about the closing of Haverhill? Do you remember when Haverhill closed?
I do remember, but I don't remember too much about it because I didn't go to Mass at Haverhill that often. When I did go, it was for a wedding or a funeral. It's a beautiful church.
It is.
It really is, and it's just a shame that there are many churches that have closed. So Haverhill isn't the only one, but of course they still have Mass celebrated there. But I don't remember too much about it, I'm sorry to say. I know the people from Haverhill Parish, they still feel like their church is still active there, even though they go to St. Henry's.
What are your thoughts about going from Latin to English?
Well, I'm thankful because I can understand what the priest says, because the prayers are beautiful, the Mass prayers. And you can hear them, especially if the priest is talking slowly and loudly. And I miss it when I don't understand them. And I think all of us, I mean, as we get older, our hearing gets worse. But we have to remember when the churches were built, they didn't have loudspeakers or anything, so voices had to enunciate. I mean, and I think we forget that a lot of times, but when you're speaking before the public, you do have to enunciate and pour forth your thoughts.
We are nearing the end of our time. Do you have any final comments that you'd like to make about this 150th anniversary?
Oh, well, I think it's a wonderful thing that we're celebrating, that the fact that the Catholic community has been active in Marshalltown for all those years. And when you think back of all the different nationalities that made up our Catholic community, it's a beautiful thing. They all came together The Germans had a certain area, the Italians had a certain area, the English, and now we're even more diversified. But that's what the Catholic Church is about. It's the universality of the church. It's so wonderful. No matter where you go to Mass, it's the same. And I've been to Mass in many different places, from southern, well, Yugoslavia, Albania. It was right on the Albanian border, which was communist at that time. But the Mass was celebrated in a little church. And I was at Mass in Kathmandu, overlooking Mount Everest. And the Mass was just the same as it is here. Over there it was in the Indian, Nepal. But that's the beauty of the Catholic Church, is the universality. It's the same no matter where you are. And it hasn't changed. I think that's all that I am so proud to be a Catholic.
Thank you, Betty.
Thank you.
It's hard to believe that you're 96 years young.
Okay, this is Martha Garcia, and she is going to talk for our 150th anniversary about how she first came to Marshalltown and got introduced into St. Mary's Parish.
I remember 22 years ago we came to Marshalltown. We opened a restaurant, Los Altos restaurant in Marshalltown, and Father Paul is the person I met first, and I was looking for a Catholic church, and I went over there and I met Father Paul. Later he came in and talked to me, and I'm start be voluntary to be doing communion, be a minister, reading, and try to help the community in there. But it was my first meet was Father Paul and Sister Anna, I believe. I don't remember correctly, but I think it was Sister Anna. And was really, really blessing. I love being St. Mary's Church. Later we have a Father Bernie. That with him the whole time until he moved, and he still be my friend. Many times he come in and eat with us. And my first daughter, Martha, she married in St. Mary's. So
Now, what did you do to prepare for a wedding at St. Mary's?
well, Jesus spoke with, was not Sister Christine, was somebody else before. And we spoke with a Hispanic minister, and because my son-in-law was not a Catholic.
Is it Luther?
Lutheran. Yes, Lutheran. He was Lutheran, so they told me they need to take classes for 1 year in order to have the merit in St. Mary's. So they took it. After they get married, we have a really good ceremony, beautiful, with Father Bernie. And after that, my son-in-law want to do a trip and go to Jerusalem, Tierra Santa, in Spanish. I don't know what to say, but they went with a church in Cedar Rapids, St. Paul Church in Cedar Rapids, and they went over there, and when he coming back, he converted Catholic.
Wonderful.
He say he learned from the first hand that it's so beautiful. They went in the Holy Week.
Has there always been a Hispanic minister since you were at St. Mary's?
Yes. When I come in, everybody was so united. That is the beautiful part. I remember when we have the raid from ICE, December 12th. I don't remember the year, but December 12th, they choose that day because they know they cannot hurt us. And St. Mary's was the first to open the church for lawyers, for people to come in to help, for receive the kids who was alone, for helping the people many ways, either for drop documents, for get information what they're gonna do, for located people that we don't know where they are. Sister Christina was the first who helped us a lot in that grade.
Was Sister Diane here?
Yes,
Do you remember
Sister
her?
Diane, yes. I think it was not Anna. It was Sister Diane with Father Paul.
Uh-huh.
Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, Sister Diane. Oh, yeah, she was not that fluent in Spanish,
Oh,
but everybody understand her. So she had the patience and the caring and everything. Yeah.
were your children born in Marshalltown?
No, when I came, my son had 4 years. So the rest of my kids already have the first communion and everything. But Lizette, my daughter, have the confirmation in St. Mary's. My son Moses have the confirmation, first communion, graduation, because they start celebrating the graduations from high school and was so beautiful.
Were those preparing for those sacraments any different than when you were a child?
No, not really. I think they are so comparable with my church in Mexico, because they give, actually is more studying here than in Mexico, especially for confirmation. They don't do the way they do it in here, and they inspire my kids. Like my daughter Martha, she have 3 kids. She go to the church and put the kids in the daycares or in the reading for the kids. Do you know, like in St. Mary's they do it? All the kids go to the basement. And her church over there in Cedar Rapids, they do the same. And she teach first communion class. She have 2nd grade.
Oh, Did you have a hard time getting your kids to go to the class, or did they want to go?
No, they want to go.
Uh-huh.
I think it was more because they see us every time it's something in the church, we go. Every Sunday. It was not escape. It's every Sunday they know the Mass and we need to go. So we go to the church. Actually, my son Moses was altar server.
Yes.
Yeah, he was.
And there's a special class for that, is there?
Yes.
To learn?
Yes, they come in, they tell them what to do. They tell them what is the meaning when they bring the water for the father to wash the hands and everything. I mean, he knows a lot of stuff. Of course, I know they forgot during the years. But I see my 2 olders are the morning church. Like a Maria, she's in the morning, and as soon as she moved, she come me and say, hey, I just get out of the church, and it's so beautiful, Mass, St. Mary's. Later, they like more in English. So we alternated. Some days in St. Henry, some days in St. Mary's. When they was here, and in order today to go, we go to St. Henry's, but we miss a lot of St. Mary's because St. Mary's, they treat everybody the same. They have too many years, I believe, with that combination, that diversity people, that they see you like a normal. And I remember the first time when I went to St. Henry's, it was not the same. Not with this Father Don, the other father, I cannot remember, but I don't feel that welcome that I feel in St. Mary's. But because for convenience for my kids, we used to go a little bit more in St. Henry's when they grow up. Just 2 years ago, not that long ago. But now that they moved to Des Moines, we're coming back to St. Mary's. So It's so beautiful be
So-
part of it.
Do you think joining the parishes together with St. Henry's is going to be difficult?
I think at the beginning it's gonna be. I was at St. Mary's board for many years. So every time since they started with the idea to fusion the two churches, I was thinking like it's gonna be hard if the priests don't speak Spanish. It's not gonna be easier. But now the Father Don speaks Spanish and he's so welcome. I think it is gonna be better, but still, do you know they are not too much used to accept people in there. So when you start coming and they know you, and like in St. Henry's, I never be a volunteer doing nothing. I just be a greeter, just in the door and say come in for 2 times and nothing else, because I don't feel that confidence. In St. Mary's, all my kids serve her one way or another.
Do you think there's anything we could do to get the St. Henry people more used to the diversity and more used to us?
Yes, I think that when they start seeing the reunions in St. Mary's, when they start seeing how happy the Hispanics are, how festive they are, they're gonna start getting in. I don't think it is gonna be impossible, but in the beginning it's gonna be a challenge, especially because sometimes we are so noisy in the church. And that affects me sometimes. I need to avoid when it's too many kids. Like a Sunday, I don't like to go to the church because it's too many kids and I cannot concentrate. But I think it is me. But I see my grandkids come in and be so into the church. Like, give me a faith that it's going to be fine. Because I know we are the bridge to get it into the other side. And now more of our kids speak only English or a few Spanish, but they know both languages really good. So that is going to be a learning experience to the churches be together. But I think we're going to be fine.
So you would recommend the joint events?
Yes.
Where we both can participate?
Yes. I love it when I come into St. Mary's and they like Ash Wednesday. The service was in both languages. So the people, Anglo, start singing songs in Spanish, just reading the books. And I love it. Like this Sunday, I have visited my whole family and we went to St. Henry's. Why? Because the Mass is a little bit early. So the kids don't start grumpy because they are hungry. If it's 11:30, we come in past lunchtime. So we went to St. Henry's. And I see how they be so welcome, so quiet time in the church, and the kids are getting so quiet. But I think pretty soon we're going to be joining. And I saw the books in Spanish and in English. And that made me happiness.
So then you could recommend to some of the Hispanic people that they try out St. Henry's?
Yes. Yes, I hope they feel free. Now I can see some families coming to St. Henry's because, like I said, sometimes the hours are more convenient, especially if you have kids and they get grumpy at the lunchtime. So, yeah, I see that one. I hope everybody start integrated in both churches and take advantage.
Can you give any advice to people trying to keep their children interested in church events in this modern day? And
yes, I think it is our responsibility to introduce the kids to all our festivities in the church. Not only Virgin Mary, not only the festivities normals. So tell the kids they need to go. And they see us, put the example and go to that event. But I also tell the kids, you are in church, you need to respect. If you want to eat, go to the basement. If you want to scream, go to the basement. So, and also introduce the kids since little to go to the people all together downstairs and be with the kids, and they learn more and more how the way we see the Bible. So I think that is special because over there they let us enjoy it with another kids. So it's not only like I say, oh, we're going to church. No, we're going to see another kids in church. So that I think my advice is that one. Don't keep the kids out. Keep it in the same events. Did you know, like, why not send it to these people downstairs if they're going to learn different? The same lectures, the same Bible, the same lectures. We're going to have it in the church, but they're going to see it in a different way. So I see when they come in, they bring the stuff they doing downstairs and they feel so proud that make a cross or paint something in the church or cry on something. So we give that the basis for being Catholic forever.
Would you like to say anything about how your faith has gotten you through your many hardships?
Yes, I think to see how the church support you when you have a crisis in your family, like in my family, St. Mary's was the best thing for me. I feel like doesn't matter if I don't come in, they praying for my family, for being strong. So for me, instead of giving me less faith, they increase my faith in the people, but also in the church. So for me, everything you can do it. You can pass because you have Jesus.
Would you like to give any message in Spanish to the families who maybe don't understand the English yet to encourage them?
Claro que sí. Ojalá que todos continúen atendiendo a la Iglesia Santa María, apoyándola, mandando a sus hijos a las clases, apoyando a todos los que ayudan en la iglesia, ayudando también y también apoyando a la hermana Cristina, que es de tanta ayuda para nosotros y ha dejado su vida aquí. A Father Bernie, al nuevo padre también, que es buenísimo, me encantan sus homilías. Y ojalá que todos introduzcamos más a nuestros niños para que su fe se incremente, así como se ha incrementado la de nosotros. Gracias.
Thank you for your time.
No, thank you.